Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Ohio.
Live from the new Busch Stadium in St. Louis, Missouri, Fox Sports Ohio brings you Cincinnati Reds baseball. They're planning for postseason here. Fans are coming from all around Cardinal country and some Reds fans too. The best record at home since August the 2nd, 20-5, has spelled first place for the Cardinals. The Orioles, the Padres, and the Nationals have all had great second halves, and that's vaulted the Cardinals to a point where they are in control. Hi, hello, and welcome to St. Louis, everyone. Along with the crafty left-hander Chris Welch, I'm George Grand. You know, when just like most Reds fans, when we sat down at the beginning of the year, we figured this would be a pretty special series. Reds and the Cardinals late in September. We thought it would be for first place. Well, the Cardinals have held up their end of the bargain.
Oh, you're right, George. You know, they seem to get better and better as the season goes on. They've got a very good record in the month of September. They've already won 12 games. Here are the two guys you're going to see tonight and tomorrow. John Lackey, he pitched on September the 10th. He's had a long time off, 9 days off, to rest that arm of his. We'll see if he's going to be able to get a little slider going tonight. And the record on the Cardinals overall, 12-5 in September. That big walk-off win of the 13th inning last night where Matt Adams came around and scored the winning run. It's got them all fired up here in St. Louis. There's no doubt about it. But you know what? They're used to postseason when it comes to Cardinal baseball.
Let's take a look at the pitching story of this one. David Holmberg, last time out, he started to show, Chris, what he can do.
Well, you know, it just goes to show you can't be too anxious to make a judgment about a pitcher in a very short sample size, because when David Holmberg, first started throwing the ball around, he was getting knocked all over the place. But he feels like he's a little bit more settled in now. He knows what it's like at the big league level. He also knows that he's got to spot up that fastball and use that changeup effectively to get the hitters off balance. We'll see if he's able to do that in back-to-back starts here against the St. Louis Cardinals.
Now, John Lackey's a different story. He came over from the Red Sox. Let's take a look and see where he is coming into tonight.
Well, he had such good numbers with the Red Sox. The Cardinals really thought that they were getting a guy that was going to be outstanding in the postseason. But it seems like the deeper into the season he gets this year, the less he has on his fastball, the less bite he has on his slider. This is when he got tossed out of last time he pitched, and that was against the Reds in Cincinnati. See you later, says Tom Hallion. He didn't like what he was saying, and he was gone. So, maybe they're hoping that a little bit of extra rest will give him a little more zip on the fastball. We'll find that out tonight.
Well, it's a role of spoiler. That's the role that the Reds are playing. Can they disrupt the Cardinal juggernaut to the Central Division Championship? Coming up next, we'll head back to the studio. The guys will update us as we're heading to the Reds and Redbirds Game 1 of 3.
forward, go further. Cincinnati USA Regional Tourism Network. Stay close to CincinnatiUSA.com. And by Skyline Chili. Feeling good? It's Skyline time. Welcome back to Reds Baseball. I'm Jim Day here on the field just outside of the Reds dugout. You know, as promised, Brian Price said there's going to be a full lineup of regulars in there against teams in contention, and certainly the Cardinals, chasing a division title, are one of those teams. Now, one guy that will hit in the 3 spot tonight is Todd Frazier, and he's had success against these Cardinals as we check out tonight's storylines. Brought to you by Elk & Elk, Serious Lawyers for Serious Injuries. Call 1-800-ELK, Ohio. 4 home runs for Todd Frazier against the Cardinals this season. Second most versus any team. The average isn't there, but this team hasn't been hitting for average all season long. David Holmberg goes to the hill tonight, and he will be looking to solve the dilemma that has been Matt Adams against Cincinnati. Look at his numbers against the Reds. 383, 8 doubles, 6 runs driven in. Not a guy that's going to slam it out of the ballpark a lot, but against Cincinnati, man, he has gotten a variety of hits in a variety of different ways. A big test for Cincinnati tonight because the Cardinals, as I said, seeking another division title. Ryan Ludwig's in there. Yadier Molina's in there. It's the Reds and Cardinals. Lineups and first pitch are next with George Brand and Chris Well on Fox Sports Ohio.
For the Cardinals, who reside in first place by 2.5 games over the Pirates to start play tonight, 85-68. And the Reds come in 71-82. 14 games back in the Central. Let's check Brian Price's starting lineup, sponsored by Meyer for the first of 3 games against the Redbirds. Billy Hamilton will lead it off. Brian Prania bats in the number 2 spot. Todd Frazier, who's had some success against John Lackey, hits third. Mazaraco will hit cleanup. Phillips, Bruce, and then Ryan Ludwig, career at Busch Stadium, the former Cardinal, at 284 with 35 homers. Zach Cozart will hit in the number 8 spot. And David Holmberg, looking for his first hit, will pitch and bat in the number 9 position. And here is the transplanted pitcher who came over from Boston in a trade after 5 years in Boston. He's trying to go to the postseason with the Cardinals, Chris.
Oh, you're right about that, George. He really made his name as a major league pitcher with the Los Angeles Angels. That's who drafted him back in 1999. John Lackey pitched the last time out against the Reds, and it didn't go so well. Only lasted 2 1/3 innings before he was thrown out of the ball game. by Tom Hallion for arguing balls and strikes. They really didn't think that his stuff was very up to par the last few times out, so they gave him a long rest. He hasn't pitched since the 10th, so he's had 8 full days of rest, and they hope that his arm will be a little more rejuvenated. Look for fastball, slider mostly from Lackey tonight. If you're a left-hander, you'll get some changeups.
Well, Lackey's ready to go to work, and here comes Billy. Hamilton at 256, 6 homers, 48 knocked in on the season. 1 for 3 in his previous matchups, and as usual, they're pinched in at third. Carpenter at the edge of the grass, and at first, Matt Adams even with the bag. Hamilton sends this one to left, but almost in his tracks is the left fielder Matt Holliday. He'll squeeze it, and there's one away. 1 pitch, 1 out. And there's your 4 defensive alignment for the St. Louis Cardinals. The Reds come in first in the league in defense. The Cardinals are 4th in the league with 83 errors on the season. Holliday is over and left. The center fielder is John Jay, who took over after falling into the number 2 hole early this year, but he's taken over. Carpenter, Peralta, Cosma, and Adams across the infield, and Yadi Molina is back behind the plate. And Chris, not a coincidence that since Yadi Molina came back, the Cardinals have been firing on all cylinders.
Well, everybody really wondered what the Cardinals are going to do without Yadi or Molina, and they hung right in there, but they're certainly a much better ball club, especially from a pitching catching standpoint. The guy runs the pitching staff. Rarely do you see a pitcher shake him off.
There's Brian Payne. You hit in the number 2 spot, 253, 5 homers and 26 knocked in on the season. And if you were watching the Reds when they were in Chicago, you saw a lot of the younger players and newer players in the lineup. And in this lineup, Chris, Brian Price has gone back to most of the veterans against the team that's in a pennant race.
Well, he's trying to make sure that you give everybody else in baseball the indication that you're trying to win these ball games and not just take a look at your young players coming up out of AAA. The problem is the way these Reds teams have been scoring recently, it's hard to tell the difference.
1 run in 3 games in Chicago. Popped up first pitch. Right side, Frazier pops out. So a fly ball by Hamilton, a strikeout by Pena, a pop up by Frazier. To the bottom of 1 we go. Matt Carpenter will lead it off. Outstanding manager of the St. Louis Cardinals, Mike Matheny, a 4-time Gold Glove winner in his playing days. Let's check his Myers starting lineup for the Redbirds. Coming 2.5 games ahead in the Central Division. Matt Carpenter back in the leadoff spot, solid as usual. Randall Grichuk will bat in the number 2 spot. Matt Holliday, what a great second half he's had. He'll come in at 271. Peralta, the heavy-hitting shortstop, will hit 4th. Matt Adams, who's been a pain in the neck to the Reds all season, at 287, but over 300 against Cincinnati. Then there's Yadi Molina against the Reds. He started the year with a home run in game number 1 and won a ball game, and he's continued that pace. 302, 3 homers, 2 doubles, 8 knocked in. John Jay, Pete Kozma, and John Lackey. That's 1 through 9. Your Cardinal batting order. And here's the young lefty, Chris, who's starting to show what he can do.
Well, he is, and I think he's feeling a lot better about himself. He faced the Cardinals a couple of starts ago. That was in St. Louis. Pitched a very fine ball game, 5 2/3 innings of shutout baseball in the middle of a Cardinal pennant race. So hopefully he'll be able to remember what he did that night and even refine it more here against the Cardinals, who get another look at him.
Here's Carpenter. You got to throw him a strike. He's got 90 walks on the year. That's a strike, says the home plate umpire Ed Hickox. Tim Timmons, the veteran umpire, at first. Fagan is at second, and Tim Welke, the crew chief, is over at third.
Not only do you throw him a strike, you throw him low strikes, because he has figured out a way to foul off a lot of pitches, run the pitch count up, and do what a lot of not very fast leadoff hitters can do. There's kind of two kinds of leadoff hitters, and it depends what you like. One guy is like Billy Hamilton, doesn't get on base a ton, but he steals a lot of bases. The other is like Matt Carpenter.
It's pretty good to right center field. Over is Hamilton. He'll call off Bruce, and there's one away.
Carpenter gets on base a lot, but doesn't run.
Let's check the core defensive alignment for the Reds. Still best in the league numerically, and best in the league in terms of spectacular plays as well. Ludwig, Hamilton, and Bruce in the outfield. Frazier, Cozart, Phillips, Pena across the infield. Mesoraco behind the plate with Holmberg on the mound. First in the league, only 66 errors on the season are the Cincinnati Reds.
Well, speaking of good defense, Ozzie Smith threw out the first pitch tonight.
Osborne Earl.
That field ought to have a good defensive energy.
I was waiting for him to do the flip, though. Remember his retirement day? We were here, and he came out and specifically went over and gave Barry Larkin a big hug as if to pass the baton to Larkin. This one hit pretty good to left. Back is Ludwig looking up. Forget it. Grichuk drills a home run into the bullpen, and Randall Grichuk has given the Cardinals a 1-0 lead here in the first. Home run number 2, 5 runs batted in for the young right fielder. He rips this one.
I think they were putting him in a number 2 spot ahead of Matt Holliday, hoping that he would get some fastballs, and boy, did he get one right there. 88 miles an hour, thigh high, warm, not hot, and that ball is rocketed out of here.
23 years old, out of the University of Arizona. Outstanding athlete. You can tell just by looking at him and watching him take infield and batting practice. Fine athletic specimen and a good defender as well. He's averaged 7 or 8 assists in the outfield throughout his minor league career. So Holmberg and the Reds trailing 1-0. And here's Holliday. Matt at 271, 18 homers, 86, and he's had a strong second half, Chris.
Well, he has, and of course they lean on him. He's going to be around here for a few more years. He's a middle of the order guy. Not a ton of home runs this year, but he seems to be a good run producer, especially down the stretch.
Guess what? He backs it up with a bomb of his own. 19 home runs from Holliday, 1 away from 20 on the season. It is 2-0 Cardinals.
Now, it's about the last thing you wanted to do if you're David Holmberg, is begin to let this crowd get into the game and get them all juiced up. That ball, a breaking ball, it looks like that Holliday just went down, got his arms out there, and plenty of power to get it out of here. You know, when you're throwing 88 and 89 miles an hour, you just don't get away with pitches over the middle of the plate as much as a guy that throws, 5 or 6 miles an hour harder.
Well, 400-foot-plus homers in this first inning, and the Redbirds lead at 2-0. 413 feet from Grichuk, 416 to center from Holliday. Well, the Reds have struggled mightily for runs, not just of late, all season long. The Cardinals have been getting what they need when they need it. I mean, amazingly, even though they haven't hit a heck of a lot, They're 20-5 since August the 2nd. And that's what's put distance between them and everyone else in the Central. That's a swing and a miss by Peralta. Second out of the inning. Here comes Matt Adams. There was a time, Chris, you and I were together back in July. You wondered if the Cardinals would ever get it together. Well, they sure turned it on.
Well, they have, especially in the month of September. They've won 12. They've lost 5. And they've won the last 5 out of 6. Even though they have not hit at all. In fact, their team batting average is .225 over the last 5 or 6 games.
Here's Adams, who's been murder against the Reds. .383, 8 doubles, 6 knocked in. Here are the September records, and not a surprise that Pittsburgh and St. Louis are neck and neck and heading to the postseason. The Cardinals, with that 3-2 win again last night against the Brewers, have really just put a dagger into the Brewers' hopes.
Been a free fall for the Brewers.
Yep. When you look at the numbers of this Cardinal team, in home runs, they are 15th in the league. It's not often they get big bombs, but they found ways to produce runs. They'll do it with key hits. Holiday with the homer there, but he's been over .350 all year long with runners in scoring position. And of course, everybody remembers last year, Chris, when the Cardinals were near .400 most of the year with runners in scoring position as a team. That's another base hit by Adams. He inches closer to .400 against the Reds this year. That's only the second time this year the Cardinals have gone back-to-back with homers. Last time was in July against Miami. Hard to believe, as much as the Reds have struggled, Chris, they have coming into tonight 120 homers. The 2 home runs in this inning were only the 100th and the 101st for the Cardinals on the season. But it gives them a 2-0 lead as Molina bounces out. Going to the second, Mesoraco leads it off. Redbirds as we go to the second. Holiday, Jay, and Grichuk in the outfield. Grichuk, good arm from right. Carpenter, Peralta, Cosman, normally a shortstop, playing second here, and then Adams over at first, and Molina behind the plate. Your 4 defensive alignment. Here's Devin Mesoraco, followed by Phillips and Bruce. So when you add up this 2014 season, Chris, you got to have a smile on your face at this guy. What a year Devin Mesoraco has had. I mean, Todd Frazier's given the Reds a lot to smile about. Billy Hamilton has given the Reds some good moments, but Devin Mesoraco has been solid. Not only the way he's performed offensively, but the way he's won over the pitching staff and the way he's improved defensively.
I could not agree with you more, George. And offensively, if you consider the fact that he was thrust right in the middle of the lineup because of the injuries that were obviously affecting the middle of the lineup with Votto out and then Phillips for a long time. I mean, they had to turn to Mesoraco, and he really was able to rise to the occasion.
Bangs a base hit here, leadoff hit for the Reds, and here comes Brandon Phillips. And he'll always get his share of boos when he comes to the plate when we're in St. Louis. He and Molina long ago patched up their squabble, but fans never forget, do they?
It's like a verbal badge of honor for
Yeah.
Brandon Phillips, though. I mean, at least they remember him.
From the stretch is Lackey. That's a strike on the inside corner. Brandon at 261, 7 homers and 48 knocked in on the season. We've talked a lot about the injuries this whole year. It's been that kind of a mash unit story for the Reds. I remember Earl Weaver always said, 1 out of 10 years everything goes right. 1 out of 10 years everything goes wrong with your ball club, and everything else is somewhere in between. This has been the 1 out of 10 where you name it, it went wrong for the Reds. Popped up. 1 away, Phillips retired, and here comes Jay Bruce. John Lackey hoping to get back to the postseason after 5 years in Boston. Lackey last year bounced back 10-13 after not playing in 2012 following elbow surgery. He's a bull of a guy, Chris. You know, we first saw him, of course, in Anaheim, and you saw what kind of a competitor he was, and then to watch him pitch when he was hurt told you a lot about the kind of guy that he was. He never said boo, didn't talk to the media a lot, but those close to him knew he was hurt for the better part of a year and finally underwent Tommy John surgery. From the stretch is Lackey. Not a great move. He'll vary his timing a lot from the mound. Big swing from Jay.
Well, Lackey has won double digits, 11 or 12 times in his career. He's been out there a long time. This is start number 353 in his major league career.
Texas native, still makes his home in Texas. Well, if there's anybody that is looking forward to turning the page on 2014, it's Jay. 213 on the season, 16 homers, 61 knocked in. And just like Joey Votto, that left knee really won't be 100% till next year.
Well, you're exactly right about that. But the one thing you've got to say about Jay Bruce, despite a miserable year, and it has been very tough on him, that with the injury in the middle of the season, knee surgery, he hasn't given up. I mean, the guy comes out and he works hard. He answers to the press. He does interviews. I mean, he hasn't tried to become invisible.
Looped into left. Sinking, it'll drop in front of Holiday, and that's a second hit for the Reds. So 1 out, 2 on, and here comes Ludwig.
And that's the kind of thing that gets you the respect of your players, which at this point, I mean, your teammates. And at this point in the year, that's all you really got going for you. Is if they know that you're out there battling hard every day, they're going to respect you as a teammate, regardless of what your overall numbers are.
And that to me is the bottom line, not just on this team, but on any team in terms of coming together as a ball club. Infield double play depth for Ludwig, who's in at 250, 9 homers, 44 knocked in. The former Cardinal digs in against Lackey. Now, the one thing, and sure, the injuries were a big part of it, but look, the Cardinals had a lot of injuries too, but they still found a way, even though they didn't hit a lot, to score runs. And the one thing that really falls on these players' shoulders is that they have to invest in each other. Not the manager, not the coaches, it's the players responding to each other, the players holding each other accountable. Chris, every good team you've been on has had players that were accountable to each other, and the players police the clubhouse. The players police the team.
Yeah, I think the other difference, though, between the Cardinals and the Reds, the Cardinals had some people in the minor leagues they could go down and call up. that are pretty good players. And the Reds had to wait until September because there's really nobody knocking at the door down other than, Jumbo Diaz. Name me somebody who they brought up in midseason that really helped them. Not that Oscar Taveras, who's not in the lineup tonight, but he has set the world on fire, but he is generally considered as one of the best prospects in all minor league baseball. They brought Grichuk up. He's already hit a home run. So, sometimes when your farm system is flush with players, you're able to do that and give your team a little bit of a youth infusion in as much as also giving them some talent.
2 balls, 1 strike, 1 out. That's down and away.
I think one guy's had a rough year, and he's admitted it, and he says it's the worst year ever as a guy at the plate, Ryan Ludwig. But how sweet would it be for him? He made his mark here in St. Louis, had the best years of his career right here in this city. To come back and put a dent in their chances with a big offensive night. He's got a chance here with a couple of runners on base.
Lackey to the stretch. Mesoraco and Bruce. This one hit pretty good. Going deep to center. Did you call it, Chris? At the warning track, at the wall. It is caught at the wall. Both runners trying to get back, and they will. That's the kind of year it's been for Ryan Ludwig. A foot short. Instead of a 3-run game-leading home run, it's a long out to center field.
I wasn't sure whether he got it or not. I saw John Jay kept going back and back and back. And you know what? This is a great catch by John Jay. He really doesn't get a lot of credit for being a good defensive outfielder, but we've seen him make more plays than not make plays. And he goes right up against the wall right there. Perfectly played by the Cardinals center fielder to rob an extra base hit away. Man.
Well, the runners had advanced almost a full base, and they just had to hustle to get back. So now 2 away, 2 on, and here comes Cozart. The old adage, they say those even out. If you're Ryan Ludwig, not this year. He's hit some balls right on the button. He's hit some warning track balls, and it's been that kind of a year. Strike 1 delivery to the right side. That's through. Rounding third. They're going to send the runner. Here comes the throw to the plate by Grichuk. It's going to be up the line. The throw to second will be in time and nailed. Trying to stretch it to 2 is Cozart.
Zach Cozart immediately waved into the dugout, and he was going to call Brian Price out here. Says, hey, I don't think they got me. So he's going to go out there. Brian Price will. They'll look in the dugout as the typical review of the review. Well, he may have something there. He feels like he had his hand in there before he got the tag down.
Take a look here. It looks like he's on
safe.
the base. If that's the case, then the Reds would have second and third, and they will challenge it. So Brian Price will challenge. Chris, the other part of this, watch Yadi Molina. If they get him at second, credit Yadi Molina because he knows he's not going to get the runner. So instead of waiting at the plate, he came 15 feet in front of the plate to cut it off and try to make a play at second.
Well, the throw went to the wrong base anyway on this play. I don't think you're going to get him, not with 2 out. Cozart sensing that there would be a play to the plate. The rule of thumb for most runners is that when you see that ball go over the cutoff man going all the way to the plate, you try to stretch it into 2. Now they're showing it on the board here at the stadium. That's what the umpires are looking at. One umpire is wired directly to New York where the umpire crew there is reviewing it. The other is on the line with the PA address.
That's Tim Welke at the top of your screen, the crew chief, looking at the replay on the board. Brian Price challenging here in the second.
I would say, George, and you've been able to watch the whole thing all year long, that the review system, you have to say it's a success because they've gotten the call right more often than not. But the stunning thing is that the average number of calls that have been made that have been overturned is over 40%.
The good news is they got it right, and that's what it's supposed to be. Yeah, and if you look at the statistics, the other remarkable thing is if you look at the top 10 umpires that are judged in terms of percentage of correct calls, 8 of the top 10 are rookie umpires, young umpires, And the bottom 10, in other words, the most number of missed calls on balls and strikes, are veteran umpires.
You might say the same thing about politicians.
That's right. In an election year. Well, they're still waiting back in New York going over it. John Lackey's come back on the mound. I think he saw the replay and he was at the dugout and he turned around and came back and he's ready to toss some warm-up pitches.
Well, this is the weird thing that happens right here when it takes this long, and they're going to ring him up.
Call him out.
How about that? Well, Brian Price is going to come out of the dugout.
You can't.
It might be a short night for Brian Price if he goes out there.
The call stands. Talking to Tim Welke. At least Welke, again, you cannot argue a challenge decision. And I give Welke credit. I mean, he could eject him just by coming out.
Right. I mean, we've seen it before where the umpire will point at the coach and say, hey, don't come out here.
Now the call stands. The Reds get a run. They trail it 2-1. Back after this. Outmade at second. The Reds get a run out of it. They trail 2-1 as we go to the bottom of 2. Jay, Kozma, and Lackey due up against David Holmberg. Holmberg allowed back-to-back homers from Grichuk and Holliday in the first. It's a 2-1 ball game. Hit hard down to second. Phillips flags it down. And they say Pena was pulled off the bag. We'll see how they scored. And if it is an error, it would be the first for Phillips this year, Chris.
It would be the first error all year long. If you're the official scorer in St. Louis and you have a chance of giving Brandon Phillips an error, that's an easy decision.
He's on a 107 game streak.
A good throw gets him. First error for Brandon Phillips since April.
107 games. They're going to, and really, Pena's kind of off balance. If he had been on balance, he could have had his foot on the bag and still made the catch. But it'll be an error charged to Brandon. So his first error since April after 107 games consecutively. Bobble by Cozart. They'll get the out at second. Instead of a double play, they'll get only one. So the Reds' two most consistently outstanding defenders, Phillips and Cozart, each commit a miscue. No error charged here because they do get an out. But instead of two, it's only one.
Well, you stay with it, and that's the one thing. I mean, you can't assume a double play ball, although I can tell you that nobody's more angry or angrier than Zach Cozart. Takes a lot of pride in his defense, and that was DP lane all the way.
And here's Lackey with a runner on first and one out. Another pretty remarkable year for Phillips, though, Chris. 107-game errorless streak. That's a single-season club record for a second baseman, and
it doesn't come lucky. I mean, the guy isn't. He just doesn't happen to have a lot of luck. That guy works. I mean, we have had a chance, George, to watch him in pregame every day for years, and he reminds me of Ozzie Smith, the way that he goes about his pregame routine, the number of ground balls he takes, the number of odd type of ground balls he practices, throwing the ball behind his back, between his legs, backhands, all those things.
Diving catch, and he picks it before it hits the dirt. Pena, they get an out. Great job by Pena to glove that one.
Well, he's coming charging hard anyway, and Lackey trying to go the other way, and that's a nice diving play by Brian Pena. You know, he showed a lot more athleticism at first base than what we thought we would see when he showed up in camp as a catcher, lugging that catcher's equipment around all over Goodyear, Arizona. But most of his playing time this year has been right down there at first.
I tell you, Chris, I mean, I think Todd Frazier is probably the most valuable player on this team this year, but Brian Pena isn't far behind him for the way he's played, the different positions he's played. From a position player standpoint, I'm not challenging Johnny Cueto, who's had a brilliant year, but he has just been spectacular wherever you put him, and he's been a positive influence too. I mean, his energy, the infectious nature of his personality is something that this club needed sorely this year.
I agree. I mean, he brings an attitude with you every day that baseball should be fun.
Short lead for Kozma. Breaking ball misses down and away to Carpenter, who flied to center first time up. Great to have you with us, George Grant, Chris Welsh, Jim Day here in St. Louis for game one of the three-game set. Pete Kozma on the fielder's choice, short lead down at first. Missing wide, and it's 2-1. Three balls, one strike to Carpenter with Grichuk on deck. He homered first time up, and that was followed by a Holiday homer in the first inning. Holmberg to the stretch. Hit hard down to second. Phillips smothers it and gets the out for the final out of the inning, but Brian Pena couldn't glove one, but boy, does he glove this pop-up bunt. Reds trail 2-1 as we go to the third.
Today, some news and notes around Major League Baseball. Clayton Kershaw continues a remarkable season for the Dodgers. He got his 20th win today. 20-3 record. Look at the ERA. It's just off the charts. And the Dodgers, if the Brewers lose tonight, will clinch at least a playoff spot. So out there in L.A., Dodger fever is at a fever pitch. Kershaw the first one to 20, and George and Chris, Johnny Cueto, so has 2 chances to get the big 2-0.
That could come down to the final day of the season before we find out if Johnny Be Good will get 20. Hey, J.D., you've been around this club all year, and we've seen Brandon Phillips have another spectacular year. How would you grade his year from what you've seen over the last few years?
Well, I mean, you look at the numbers, that it's going to go down as a down year, but he's, again, been playing with injuries. There's a guy that not very many people know his back's killing him. His finger still hurts every time that he swings the bat. The glove is there. It'll always be there. But I think everyone across the board, outside of the guys you mentioned, Mesoraco, Frazier, Hamilton, everyone would have to look at their year as being a down year. And certainly a lot of motivation to bounce back next year.
Who's your MVP on this team?
Whew. It depends. You have to tell me about the argument whether a pitcher can win that.
Other than the pitcher, I mean, from a position player standpoint.
Well, it's probably got to be Todd Frazier, I would think. Has been the most consistent. It's Frazier or Mesoraco, one of the two. Mesoraco has similar numbers to Frazier and very many, a lot less at bats. So I would say Frazier probably just the most consistent, has played the most ball games.
Thank you, J.D. Don't eat too much down there now. You got people running out getting you anything?
The answer to that is yes, George. I can tell you that right now.
We can see from here.
I don't have anyone get me anything, but they've thrown a couple things at me.
Make you feel at home. Here's Billy, flied to left on the first pitch you saw in the first inning.
I'm glad to see him a little bit more patient at the plate. Yeah, I think it's good for Billy Hamilton to watch Matt Carpenter. And just to see the approach that Carpenter has at home plate. He may not be able to match him. Carpenter's much more of a veteran player. But, I mean, the more that Billy Hamilton makes the pitcher work, he really should realize how difficult it is for pitchers to keep throwing pitches in there that you foul off one after another. Carpenter makes a nice play right there. I mean, the last thing the Lackey wants is Billy Hamilton on base. He can't hold the runners at all. He's given up 17 stolen bases. Of course, you got Molina behind the plate here. But you got to be patient, I think, as a leadoff hitter. That's the one thing that Billy Hamilton will probably be able to improve on next year.
Here's Brian Pena, struck out first time up. I think the one thing that's clear, the one thing we've seen, and we've heard it all the way up the line too. And Jim Riggleman, who's here with the Reds AAA manager at Louisville, he had him at AA, had him at AAA. Delino DeShields, of course, a great mentor of him, and everyone has said the same thing all the way up the line, Chris. He has great aptitude, and he wants to learn, he wants to work, and we've seen that reinforced this year. He's going to get better and better and better just by the fact he's going to continue to work at it. I remember when Ozzie Smith, before he retired, and I asked him once, I said, when did you realize how hard you had to work? He said, not until I got to the major leagues, and I realized I had to get better every year. And if I didn't get better, and he was talking about defensively and offensively, then I'd only get worse. You don't stay the same. And Ozzie, by the time he retired, was a pretty good offensive player. I mean, he'd bang that ball from either side, hard down the first base line, hard down the third base line. He made himself a threat offensively for a guy that you could knock the bat out of his hands early in his career. The Wizard, Osborne Earl. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Hit pretty good to right. Going back is Grichuk at the warning track. He'll haul it in. 1, 2, 3 go the Reds. To the bottom of 3 we go. Grichuk goes to the bat rack. at the end of each game wins. Head-to-head challenge is free to play, so download it today. To the bottom of 3 we go here at Busch Stadium. Grichuk, followed by Holiday, each homered in the first, and then Peralta, 2, 3, and 4 in the lineup. First time I've had a chance to get here this year, Chris, and they did a great job with Ballpark Village outside the ballpark. I mean, the Reds have done a remarkable job thanks to the impetus of Bob Castellini with the Banks project, and they've tried to do the same thing to reinvigorate the area around the ballpark here.
Well, they really have. Very festive, of course, a Friday night here in September. Cardinals on their way seemingly to postseason, and there you see a lot of what that Ballpark Village is all about. Cardinal Nation, Fox Midwest has a big stage right there where they have their pregame show and postgame show. Really a great venue for their outlet. Of course, there are Fox Sports Midwest brethren. Good to see Danny McLaughlin and Hungo.
Now Roboski doing the game tonight. That's a liner down the left field line, foul. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Holmberg, 22 years of age. Out of Florida, where he was a high school star. The Reds picked him up in the 3-team Ryan Hannigan trade this past year. Got off to a slow start in the minor leagues, and the hope is that he'll end up with, there's a great play by Cozart behind the bag, and they'll turn that into an out. Nice play by Zach Cozart, who's done that all season long.
Yeah, this is where the defense and the pitching is so intertwined. I mean, if you're a ground ball contact pitcher like David Holmberg, you just flourish when you've got the kind of D the Reds are going to put back there for you. You know, if you just go simply by the sabermetric metrics of defense, Zach Cozart's the best defender on this team. Talk about zone rating, and I mean, other than Billy Hamilton having a heck of a year defensively.
Down the right field line, Bruce over. It'll be 1 hop off the wall. So Holiday homered his first time up, and he'll double here. He's 2 for 2, and he's continuing to end strong for the Cardinals.
That is 36 doubles for Matt Holliday. You know, I think he figures that Holmberg is going to pitch him away and that he's going to lay off anything inside, because anything that comes into Matt Holliday out of the hand of David Holmberg is probably going to be a cutter or something coming in on his hands. So he's looking away, and he got one that he could take the other way.
The runner in scoring position for Peralta, who struck out first time up. 1 out, 1 on. Down to third, but foul. Past Cheo Akindo. Jose Akindo, the longtime third base coach and infield instructor here. He learned from one of the best in George Kissel, one of the best infield coaches in the history of our game, and he's become a brilliant coach in his own right. Managed Puerto Rico in the World Baseball Classic and hopeful of being a major league manager one day. Chris Maloney down in the first base coach's box for the Cardinals. Maloney, longtime minor league coach and manager. Here's Peralta, who's had a pretty successful offensive year. 21 homers, 70 knocked in. Signing the free agent deal with St. Louis on a team that's not had much power. He's provided a lot of it.
Now, Matt Holliday just hit his 36 double. Peralta already has 36. He has not had really good at-bats against Holmberg. I mean, Peralta, everybody loved to hit a fastball anyway, but Peralta struck out the first time up on a curveball. He was out ahead of that changeup right there. He's just not picking the ball up out of Holmberg's hand. That's something that Holmberg really ought to recognize right here. You add, you subtract. Some guys have great plate coverage, and you really can't move the ball in and out because they can cover it. But you can add and subtract. Will he go back to the same pitch that he got the strikeout on, the curveball?
2-2. Came in. Now we're full 3-2. Does this Cardinal team have enough to go all the way as they did a year ago, Chris?
Well, that's a good question, George. I mean, they're going to need to have some better pitching than they've had going down the stretch, although it's been good enough. John Lackey's a question.
3-2 hit him.
Michael Wacha is certainly a question mark, and he was huge last year. But you have to give the Cardinals a little bit of credit for, first of all, getting there with some injuries that they've had and figuring out what it takes in the postseason, because they've been in there enough. I think they've got the leadership, obviously, of the everyday players like Holiday and Molina and Carpenter to kind of guide this ball club. They are where they are for a reason.
And their bullpen has come up big when it's mattered here in the last month or so. Last night, a great example. 6 relievers, 7 scoreless innings in that 13-inning victory over Milwaukee. Here's Matt Adams. Another base hit against the Reds. A single to right first time up. Overall, 289 and nearly 400 against the Reds this year. 2 on, 1 out, middle of the infield double play depth. 0-2. Adams didn't like the call. Holmberg got the benefit.
Hey, if they're going to give you that call down there, you go ahead and push the envelope and see how much lower you can throw it. That's a good pitch right there. You're trying to expand the strike zone. You don't want to throw it where they just left. I mean, you don't want to hang that ball on the inner part of the plate. But at some point when it comes out of your hand, you got to make it look like a strike. And those last two, obviously Matt Adams was not tempted.
Great block by Mesoraco to prevent the runners from advancing. 2-2. And we talk about the offensive year Mesoraco has had. And defensively, he continues to get better and better, and he continues to work at it. I mean, give Johnny Bench credit. Bench was the one who told everybody who would listen, and even those who wouldn't, that this kid needs to be in there every day. We need to find out how good he can be. And boy, he's gotten better and better. Down the left field line, curving, it'll be foul and out of play. And the best catcher ever should know, huh? Even when Albert Pujols was at his best here in St. Louis, Tony La Russa, behind his managerial doors, would tell everyone in the organization the key to our club is Yadi Molina. It's so important to have leadership and that kind of ability. That's a call, strike 3. Adams not liking it at all, but the Reds will take the out. 2 away, still 2 on.
Well, he thinks he got shortchanged on not 1 but 2 calls in the same at bat right here. Our Fox Tracks has that located at the bottom of the strike zone. As long as part of that baseball is touching that zone, that's a strike. And too close to take for Adams.
Second strikeout for Holmberg, and here's Molina, bounced into a fielder's choice to end the first. And we've seen Yadi Molina in so many ways, offensively, defensively, and in the clubhouse lead here. It was so impressive to watch him in the World Baseball Classic with his teammates on the Puerto Rican team. I mean, it was very clear how much they respected him and how much he was into leading them. I mean, you talk about a guy that could be a brilliant manager. This is a guy that could be exactly that.
Hey, you got to wonder, though, if he has a desire to manage.
He loves the game.
He loves the game, but managing is not in everybody's blood.
He's got baseball with his brothers and his whole family from top to bottom.
Some guys used to get into managing because they needed the money. That is no longer the case.
You're right.
unless you're a career minor leaguer.
Yeah.
But if you're a guy like Yadier Molina, the kind of money that you've been paid your entire career, you got to ask yourself. I mean, managing nowadays, the commitment that it takes. I mean, it's a year-round commitment. It's quite a bit like being a general manager, 24/7, all the time, tied to your cell phone in the wintertime.
Or general manager, same story. No longer is it just the good old boy network. You've got, as a general manager, it's 24/7. You've got that top drawer of your desk with all the names that could be managers, could be coaches, could be trades you want to make. Mike Matheny never managed in the minors, and we're seeing an influx of that, Chris. I mean, Brad Ausmus has had a good year in Detroit. This one blew to the right side, and we've all seen. I mean, the Dave Mileys of the world, who have been career minor league managers and very successful, bypassed for major leaguers who get a chance out of the box. Molina could be one of those guys too. Does that bother you? Would you rather see those minor leaguers get a chance?
It's so hard to say who deserves a chance or not. I'm not so sure managing in the minor leagues makes you any more qualified for dealing with big leaguers or not. Your bench coach runs the game anyway.
We'll go full 3-2, 2 out, so the runners will be off as Holmberg deals to Molina.
The bottom line is you're not going to win unless you have the players that can win for you.
Sparky said it. Good players make good managers. Center field. Here comes Hamilton. He'll get there. A line drive out off the bat of Molina. They'll strand 2. Cardinals have stranded 3. They still lead it 2-1. Moment of the night. Players with 20-plus homers and 20-plus stolen bases. Todd leads them all with 26 home runs and 20 bags. Ian Desmond, Carlos Gomez, and Brian Dozier also on that list in Major League Baseball this season. Productive years for all of those players, and I guess a lot of people who had questions what kind of an offensive player could Todd Frazier be at the beginning of this year got an answer from the Reds' third baseman, number 21.
And I think he would even be better, George, had this lineup stayed healthy and intact. He would not have been exposed quite as much to some tough right-handed pitching. He would have felt like he would have to bear the load of a lot of run production when other guys would be in there kind of chipping in. I think sometimes he caught himself trying to do too much.
One away, Frazier pops up. Here's Mesoraco, who led off the second with a single. In the second, the Reds had 2 singles and then a base hit by Cozart that plated Mesoraco for the first run, and Cozart was thrown out at second trying to stretch it, even though it was challenged by Reds manager Brian Price. The challenge was not upheld. Mesoraco, right field. Grichuk there. 2 away. Hey, right now on FoxSportsOhio.com, the Reds announced yesterday a new advanced day affiliation moving from Bakersfield to Daytona Beach. Kevin Goheen has a status update on 2 key injured Bengals for this Sunday's game. Plus, what are the big storylines and key roster battles to watch during Blue Jackets training camp that's already underway? Get complete coverage of all of today's action involving Ohio sports on FoxSportsOhio.com. Bengals off to a 2-0 start. Smiling scoreboard for them to start this 2014 season back home. You'll be heading back home this weekend. You going to show up at Oktoberfest?
Well, since the next 2 ball games are one, tomorrow will be on Fox Sports 1, and then on Sunday it'll be an ESPN night game. So I may head out to the Bengals game. Looking forward to see the Bengals play. They are stacked. And off to a great start.
Oh, while you're at the Bengals game, you can go downtown.
Oh, well. That's a natural.
You wouldn't have a beer or 2, would you?
Why not?
And
that's what Cincinnatians are supposed to do.
Cincinnati? What's your favorite? I kind of like the cream puffs, the Bavarian cream puffs.
Oh, those. I thought you were talking about Brew.
We know that.
I'm going to have to go through and taste them all again.
You and I both like those nuts, the cinnamon roasted nuts.
I wish they'd serve those at the ballpark.
Yep.
They have those in Milwaukee.
Milwaukee,
yeah.
Someday.
It'll be you operating the stand. That'll be the day.
That'll be it. Right outside the press box. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Phillips down to third. Carpenter has it. In the dirt, but picked by Adams. The Reds go 1-2-3 in the 4th. To the bottom of 4. John Jay leads it off 2-1 Redbirds. AL Central showdown. Then on Fox Sports 1, the NL Central leading Cardinals take on the Reds. The action starts at 12:30 Eastern on Fox, continues at 7 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sports 1, and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Days dwindling down to a precious few in this Major League Baseball season. Cardinals heading to the postseason. The Pirates and the Brewers trying to hang in the Central Division to get a wild card spot. Here's Jay Bruce to lead it off in the 5th.
You know, it's not given that the Cardinals are going to make the postseason. I mean, a lot of it has to do with this weekend and what the Reds are able to do right here in St. Louis. I mean, at least as far as winning the division title. They're 2.5 games up right now in the division against Pittsburgh Pirates. And the way the Reds have rolled over in St. Louis, it gives a lot of Cardinal fans the indication that this is the weekend, that they're going to finally secure the whole thing. But these games are very winnable. This is a tight ball game right here. This is what you play for if you're the spoiler. I mean, it's a lot better playing right here in front of a packed house in St. Louis than it is playing against another fifth-place ball club somewhere where nobody shows up to watch you.
John Jay pops out to center field for the first out. And here's Pete Kozma. Kozma bounced into a fielder's choice first time up. The way the schedule is this year, with the Reds playing 16 of their final 19 against contenders in the National League Central, these rivalries bring forth strange bedfellows. The Pirates rooting for the Reds, then the Cardinals rooting for the Reds when they play Pittsburgh the final weekend of the season. By the way, Chris, got a greeting for you. I was fortunate to do the AAA championship game down in Charlotte this past week, and one of our favorite former players, Jeff Shaw, the former reliever for the Reds, 12-year major league veteran. That's in there for a strike 1 and 2. A member of the Pawtucket Red Sox, his son Travis. We remember him when he was.
You mean he's not 12 years old anymore?
No, that's right. He had 3 hits and a homer, and he's just as wonderful a young man as he was then, and it was so great to see him. He said, make sure you say hello to Mr. Welsh, please.
Well, what a polite young kid, but you wouldn't expect anything different, from Jeff Shaw. He was one of the all-time best Reds, one of my favorite Reds ever, and a guy that just rejuvenated his career in Cincinnati, ended up going on in Los Angeles, having a nice career there as a closer, and you had to figure that Jeff's son, Travis, would be something special, too.
He drilled a home run down at Charlotte. That's a beautiful new ballpark at Charlotte. Scotty Brown, the general manager down there, has done a tremendous job. They led all of minor league baseball in attendance this year. It's a liner to short. Cozart has it. Cosma's retired, 2 away. And as usual, International League president Randy Mobley was there, and Branch Rickey Jr. from the Pacific Coast League, the 2 presidents were there. They did a tremendous job, and thanks to Randy Mobley and Chris Sprague too. And by the way, we all honor Joe Morgan here in Cincinnati, and we honor Chris's daughter Morgan, who's a big Reds fan and a big Joe Morgan fan. We say hi to her, and thanks for rooting for the Reds every night that the Reds are on TV. By the way, the other guy we saw was Paul Janisch. He was part of the Omaha Storm Chasers Club, the former Red shortstop. They won it all, beating Pawtucket 4-2. Janisch still brilliant with the glove. Right field, down the line, curving, it'll go foul.
Don't look now, but David Holmberg is on a little bit of a roll after a couple of hiccups and bad pitches in the first inning. Back-to-back home runs by Grichuk and Holiday. He's really settled down very nicely. You can see the swings that the Cardinals are having. They just don't look all that comfortable in there. Hitting spots and changing speeds. That's what it's all about.
Lackey tried to bunt but popped out to the first baseman Pena first time up. Loop to right. Long run Jay. He's got it. Bruce will haul it in. It's a 1-2-3. That's the first clean inning for Holmberg tonight. Bruce goes to the bat rack when we return.
Near sections 130 and 113. These two stands feature several Christian Moorline craft beer options with 40 bottled beer selections. Don't miss your chance to taste a Cincinnati tradition while enjoying Reds baseball. For tickets, call 513-381-REDS. Visit select Kroger locations or reds.com/tickets. I'm Jim Day. Always cool when younger players come up to the league and you ask them who are the players that they idolize, not only while they were growing up, but players that are still playing. Well, for Tucker Barnhart, that guy is Yadier Molina. And what did Tucker Barnhart get today? That would be a signed jersey from Yadier Molina to Tucker Barnhart, inscribed to Tucker. And I talked to Tucker about it, and he says, listen, I know he's not popular in Reds country, but think of it like I do. I'm an Indianapolis Colts fan, and I loved Peyton Manning, and every time Tom Brady would just destroy our team, and I couldn't stand him, but I respected him. And you can't help but respect what Yadier Molina has done in this game. In fact, when people ask me the top 3 respected players in my mind in this game, Yadier Molina's in that sentence. Say what you will, but the guy is a flat-out gamer, one of the best catchers the game has ever seen, and his impact on his team is without question.
JD, also, when you talk to Tucker, I mean, he'll throw bouquets as well. As the Cardinals all of a sudden shift their third baseman over now. They did not shift for the first 2 pitches against Bruce. Now they shift Carpenter all the way over to the second base spot. But he'll give kudos to Corky Miller, too, for all the time that Tucker was helped by Corky and Rick Sweet, the former catcher, and who helped the Reds so much with his mechanics in the last couple of years.
It takes a lot of different people to have a little input to develop somebody like that.
I mean, one of the most enjoyable moments for me this year was when we were in Boston, and it was Tucker who caught Homer Bailey that night in Boston. And during the course of Bailey's outing, and Homer was all over the place by his own admission, he just didn't have a feel for the ball. Here's the 3-1. That's ripped but foul by Bruce. 17 balls in the dirt and around the plate, and Tucker Barnhart smothered every one of them. And after the game, David Ross, the former Reds catcher, who was the backup catcher that night, came out and said, who's that kid behind the plate? He's a rock star. And he went up to Tucker the next day and told him that, and Tucker felt like he just won the lottery. There's a bullet to right. Here comes Grichuk. He'll haul it in, and Bruce is retired.
Kind of interesting, really, what the Cardinals did right there. They had no shift on Jay Bruce at all until the count went 2-0. And then when it went 2-0, Carpenter went over to play deep second base and to try to flood the right side of the field with a bunch of players. And that's when John Lackey started throwing nothing but curveballs. He threw him 3 curveballs in a row, eventually went 3-1, got a fastball, and that's what Bruce hit on the line drive right at the right fielder.
One away, here's Ludwig, who hit one to the wall back in the second inning. In the second, Mesoraco singled, Bruce singled, and then Ludwig hit one to the top of the wall about 400 feet away that John Jay picked about a foot shy of being out of here for a homer. Would have been a 3-run shot.
Well, that was a fastball that he leveled on pretty good, and unlikely he's going to get a similar pitch here.
This one hit pretty good to left. Jay going back, warning track wall again. This one is caught again.
You gotta be kidding me.
All he can do is smile, and all Jay can do is laugh. Unbelievable. 2 balls against the wall, one to center, the other to left center, and Ludwig, instead of 2 home runs on this night, 2 long outs.
You know, it's the ironic thing, really, that John Jay lost his job as a center fielder for the Cardinals this year because they didn't like his defense. He eventually won that job back by being able to swing the bat better than his replacement player, which was Peter Borges. Nothing wrong with Borges defensively. But John Jay has been up to the task and much more than adequate tonight. 2 of the biggest plays of the night right there.
That's the way it's gone for the Cardinals of late. When they've needed a play, they've gotten it. Cozart bangs a base hit to left, so a 2-out single, and here's Holmberg, who struck out first time up. bounce towards second. Peralta has it. That'll do it. The Reds get a hit. They've got 4 on the night. The hits are even at 4, but the Cardinals lead it 2-1. Group. Let's create great dishes together. Buy Toyota. For over 30 Toyota offers, visit buyatoyota.com. And go for the Save on Wing Tuesdays at B-Dubs with specially priced wings all day. Buffalo Wild Wings, wings, beer, and sports. Hey, now time for you to tweet your photo using hashtag #OhioFanPhoto for a chance to have it shown at an upcoming game broadcast. There's just a few games left, so hurry up. Get them in. Reds Fan Photo is brought to you by AT&T. Hits are even at 4. Cardinals have left 4 on. The Reds have left 2 on. Back to the top of the order for the Redbirds. Matt Carpenter flied out and grounded out. The 2 big swings of this game came in the first. After Carpenter flied out in the first, Grichuk homered 413 feet, and Holiday followed with a 416-foot homer to center. 2-0. That was the lead for the Cardinals. They lead it 2-1. As this Reds team is constituted right now, Chris, what do you think it needs next year? I mean, forget about the injuries, and that's part of the package, yes, but injuries aside, what does this team need to do to get back on a winning track next year?
Needs leadership.
Yep.
It needs leadership out of the players that are supposed to be your superstars. And this ball club, it seems like it is kind of evolved into a club that was supposedly a Jay Bruce and Joey Votto ball club into a Devin Mesoraco and Todd Frazier type ball club. Now, Votto's been gone all year, but I think that you need leadership. Look what the Cardinals have with Yadier Molina and Matt Carpenter and Matt Holliday. You know, you need your superstar players to play like superstars, and you need some leaders.
And that doesn't necessarily mean just one person. I mean, Joey Votto can lead in a way. Jay Bruce can lead in a way. Frazier, Mesoraco go down the list. I think certainly the way the year unfolded for Skip Schumacher, even though he was not expected to be a star player, he was the kind of a personality that was part of that leadership quotient. But he was hurt all year. Different players lead in different ways.
Well, yeah, it's difficult, though, for a guy that doesn't play full time to be a true leader. I mean, you can be a behind the scenes kind of guy, the way that Lenny Harris was that when he was with the Reds back in the Greg Vaughn days and Barry Larkin and so on. And I think Schumacher is perfect for that. Great clubhouse guy, hard nosed, not afraid to get in somebody's face. I mean, I think he learned a lot of that, too, along his days with the Cardinals. I think they also need production out of the left field spot. It's been a black hole out there for a couple of years.
Right off the shin of Carpenter. 3 balls, 2 strikes, and there's ball 4. Heading towards a 100 walk season is Matt Carpenter. That's his first walk of the night. Leadoff hitter on here in the 5th. Here comes Richard. Now, one of the things that helped this team come together last year, the Cardinals, was when Carpenter took over in the leadoff spot about a month into the season, and that's continued this year. Christian Yelich right behind him.
Well, nobody works the count better than Carpenter. He sees more pitches than any National League player. He seemingly can foul a ball off at will. He's not really a threat to run. He's only stolen 5 bases.
And third on that list is Josh Harrison, too, he's been one of the keys to the Pirates.
Amazing year for Harrison.
Boy,
Happy
wow.
to see it, too.
Yep. Ritchie homered first time up and hit one over the bag at second that Cozart turned into a 6-3 put out with a brilliant play.
You know, you watch this kid and you realize why. He has walked 4 times and he struck out 24. And he hit a home run because you gave him a ball right down the middle right here. There's no reason why you need to give him a good strike to hit here. He will get himself out. He slowed his bat down with a little changeup first pitch. Then you speed it up right there with a fastball. Now you're ahead 0-2. And really what David Holmberg wants here is not a strikeout, but he wants Grichuk to put the ball on the ground, let his defense turn a double play.
No balls, 2 strikes. Perfect pitch from Holmberg. That's a strikeout, his 3rd of the night.
Boy, I like the way he comes right in there with a fastball. Not afraid to throw it, not overpowering. 88, 89 miles an hour is what Holmberg's fastball is. But hey, that's our flamethrower of the night, brought to you by Cholula Hot Sauce. We don't care about that radar gun.
As a Chris Welch, Cholula. Here's Halladay, 2 for 2. Homer to center, his 19th of the year, and a double in the 3rd. Ball and a strike. And you talk about learning when you're a young player. Matt Halladay learned from one of the best. We were there in Denver, Chris, when Todd Helton was honored. And Matt will tell you how much Helton meant to his development early in his career. Baseball, you talk often about keep the line moving offensively, move runners over and keep innings alive. It's also a story of leadership. Pass the baton of leadership to those who can carry it. Sometimes on the same team, sometimes someplace else. I remember Bobby Cox saying once, when you have chemistry on a club, you know you have it. When you don't have it, you don't know how to get it back. So when you have it, the key is to keep it. 2 balls, 1 strike. 2-2, 3-1 rather. Second walk in the inning. 1 out, 2 on, both via the walk, and here comes Peralta. MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, celebrating 12 years. Join the millions of subscribers. Watch every out-of-market game live in true HD over 400 devices. Visit Reds.com for details. Jeff Pico out to talk to the left-hander, and for the first time they're starting to stretch around a little bit out in the Reds bullpen.
Well, the Reds have plenty of arms down there in the bullpen, and I don't think that Brian Price is going to give a very long leash to any starter anymore. He wants to win these games very badly. It was so satisfying what the Reds did to the Cardinals when they came through Cincinnati back about 9 or 10 days ago, when the Reds won 3 of the 4 games that they played.
Pedro Villarreal starting to loosen. In the last 32 series between these two teams, the Cardinals have dominated. The Reds are only 3-27-2. One of those 2 was to take in 3 of 4 against the Cardinals at home. Here's Peralta, struck out and hit by a pitch. That's a strike. Big swing, trying to put a 3-spot up, and his 22nd homer. Of his 21 homers, 17 have been off right-handers, only 4 against left-handers. Of course, far more right-handers does he face through the year. Right field towards the line, curving, it will be foul. Luckily for the Reds, that would have plated 2 more. Some hitters, Chris, at times look undisciplined. Some are cunning in the way they do it. Peralta is one of those, a smart hitter.
Yeah, you're saying he's kind of a setup hitter. He'll give you a bad swing to try to set you up. He won't do that now behind an account 0-2. But he's trying to learn from Holmberg, and he's trying to protect the plate by waiting a long time, knowing that what got him out has been the slow stuff.
0-2. Coming back inside. Didn't miss by much, 1-2.
It's a good little pitch right there. It really is. I mean, that's as hard as Holmberg can throw it. You throw it right underneath the elbows. Art Boxtrax has that as a strike, by the way. And then you go back away, take a little something off of it, and see if you can't reach out for it.
Lifted in the air to right. Bruce is there. Tagging up is Carpenter, but he's going nowhere. 2 away. And here comes Adams, 1 for 2. A single in the first. He struck out looking in the third. Reds called up 10 this month, Chris. Of the 10, Holmberg one of them, of course. Who's impressed you the most of these call-ups?
Well, Holmberg is obviously one of the guys that has been very impressive, George. You know, we haven't seen a lot of the guys that just, you know, bits and pieces of Yorman Rodriguez and Jake Elmore and so on. I like what I've seen of Christopher Negron. He's been up for quite a while. I like his attitude. I like his baseball awareness on the field.
And we don't know what the Reds are going to do next spring, but I think judging from the way Brian Price respected and regarded Negron this spring and the way he's been impressed by him this year, you would feel that he's got a pretty good chance to be on this roster come next spring when they break camp. By the way he plays the game and the way he's performed. Down to first. Pena will take it himself, and that'll do it. So a couple of walks, but Holmberg battles out. Top of the order, here comes Billy Hamilton in a 2-1 ball game. Your new home for baseball's National League Division and Championship Series, and it all begins in October. Two runs, 4 hits, no errors for the Cardinals. 6 left on base. The Reds a run, 4 hits, 1 error. That error committed by Brandon Phillips, ending his 107-game errorless streak. And here we go to the top of the order. Billy Hamilton, 2 balls in the air, a fly ball to left and a pop up to the third baseman Carpenter. Carpenter in even tighter now, 1 step onto the grass at third. Showing bunt, popped up, and Molina can't get it. Molina trying to do everything he can to keep the speedy Hamilton off the bases. Look at this effort. Strike 1 to Billy. Big breaking ball drops in there, and it's 0-2. He got him. Hamilton 0 for 3. Third strikeout for Lackey.
Well, Lackey went after Billy Hamilton with a fastball his first couple of times and got him on fly balls. That time he went almost exclusively with the breaking ball right there, and Billy Hamilton swung over the top of the last one. Lackey's breaking ball seems to be getting better here as the game goes on.
Very pleasant night in St. Louis. A little moisture in the air. Good night to throw a breaking ball, huh? Pena to left. Another looping fly ball. Halladay has it, 2 away. Well, we talk about the Cardinals bullpen and starters coming around at the right time. How about the Cardinals starters for the last 7, Chris?
Well, they're not hitting very much, the Cardinals aren't. They're hitting .226 as a team. So if you're going to win, and they have won 5 of the last 6 ball games, you got to do it somehow, and they've done it with pitching. Starting pitching is where it really starts, and of course the Cardinals have had a pretty good bullpen as well. 2 complete games over that period of time.
And that's about the same kind of offensive numbers that the Reds have had of the last week, too. Only 1 run in 3 games in Chicago. Here's Frazier. Popped out twice, once to the first baseman, once to the second baseman. That's foul into the seats behind first. In the air to center, Jay will have room. He'll squeeze it. The Reds go 1, 2, 3 in the top of 6. Molina, Jay, and Cosman due up when we return. All-Star Game will guarantee the opportunity to purchase All-Star tickets by becoming a Red season ticket holder, with plans starting at under $9 per seat. Now's your chance to guarantee your seats for the Midsummer Classic, the Home Run Derby, Fan Fest, and more. Secure your All-Star tickets today by calling 513-765-7500 or visiting Reds.com/2015. The Reds put together a whole host of packages that really, once you take a look at them and just go online and take a look at them, or if you're downtown, stop at the ballpark, or one of the final games of the season as the Reds have their final homestand coming up. I mean, the Midsummer Classic, not just the game, but the entire week has become so special. There's Molina, bounced into a fielder's choice and lined to center. What a year it'll be with the Columbus Blue Jackets hosting the NHL All-Star Game, and then the Reds hosting the Major League Baseball All-Star Game. What a job that John Davidson has done to, Chris, we talk about putting an organization together, and what JD has done in Columbus is pretty special. When you get somebody that knows what they're doing, the word travels and players want to play for you. Players want to come there. 2 balls, 2 strikes to Molina.
They also like the money.
Mm-hmm. And they like to win.
You're right.
Under the glove of Holmberg into center. Molina has a base hit, 1 for 3. The leadoff hitter on.
It looked like Yadier Molina slammed his bat down. I don't know whether he did that because he was angry at swinging at that pitch or what, but after he hits his ball, he kind of takes his bat and then he slams it down. That's what he does after a base hit. Guy holds himself to pretty high standards here, doesn't he?
Leadoff hitter on for the 3rd time in 6 innings for the Cardinals. Here's Jay, reached on an error and flied to center. You got 2 choices when you lose a battle for a position. Either fold up your tent and complain, or just work harder and try to win it back. And that's what John Jay did this spring. The Cardinals dealt for Peter Borges in the offseason. Borges, fine performer, good solid contributor this year, just didn't hit. And after losing the center field job, Jay Could have just folded up his tent. He didn't, and has come back to have an outstanding year, hitting .300. That's a line drive to Cozart. 1 away. Holmberg touched for 2 homers in the first, Chris. Since then, he's been able to battle out of trouble in 3 different innings.
You know, I think George is the type of pitcher that once you get him out of the first inning, he'll probably get a little bit better. You've got to keep an eye on him later in the ball game. Once a hitter sees him 2-3 times, you know, his stuff doesn't lend itself to being dominant late in the game. But he gets on a little bit of a roll, and guys are taking fastballs because they're looking for breaking ball, and then they look for fastball again, and he gives them a change up. And if he can get out of the first inning, that's where we've seen most of his problems early in the ball game.
Strike 1 to Kozma. Bounced into a fielder's choice and line to short.
Think about a guy like Holmberg. When he gets on his game, he makes it look so easy. Looks like he's just playing catch with the catcher. And you look at the radar gun, it tells you one thing, that he should be hit all over the ballpark. You look at the hitter's swings and you realize that they're not picking the ball up very well.
Here's the 1-1. You know, Chris, you talk about what John Jay did from the start of the year. I mean, let's be honest, the Reds were not happy with Holmberg. He came to camp overweight when it looked like he had a chance to be a contributor on this club possibly. And number 1, he got his act together, but number 2, Teddy Power did a great job down at Louisville this year to get his head screwed back on straight and get him going in the right direction. 2-1. That's a strike. One out, double play depth for the middle of the infield for the Reds. In the dirt, there goes the runner. Here comes the throw. It will be in time. They got him. Great job by Mesoraco and a tremendous job by Phillips to take the ball on one hop at second and nab the runner. Molina trying to go to second.
Well, nice play by Mesoraco to keep the ball in front of him and get rid of it very quickly. I mean, Mesoraco ends up falling down after he throws that ball. Phillips picks it and puts the tag on it like it's no problem at all. Another good defensive play by the Reds.
3-2 to Kozma, and there's ball 4. The third walk in 2 innings by Holmberg. Unfortunately, with the throw out of Molina at second, only 1 on with 2 away.
I would imagine this is his last batter if he does not retire John Lackey. They've got lefty righty going up in the bullpen down there. Although it looks like Ryan Denick is throwing, just kind of playing toss down there.
Lackey sends it high in the air to center. Plenty of room for Hamilton. Billy has it. That'll do it. Single and a walk. Nothing for the Redbirds. Coming back, Mesoraco.
I'm Jim Day, and you heard us talking about perhaps who's going to be the team MVP for Cincinnati. Now, I had said the most consistent guy is Todd Frazier, and he's leading the team in categories like RBIs and home runs. But you can make a big case for Devin Mesoraco. In fact, he's the subject of our IGS Bringing the Energy. Highest OPS in the National League. OPS is on-base percentage plus slugging percentage. And Devin Mesoraco, top 5 in the league with a 901 OPS, and he's in there with some big names: Stanton, Goldschmidt, Dickerson, Andrew McCutchen, and Devin Mesoraco at 901. Now, Frazier leads the club with 26 home runs, and he has one more run batted in than Mesoraco. But Mesoraco had 2 trips to the disabled list. He's got 210 less at-bats than Todd Frazier. So you could make a very good case that Devin Mesoraco is your team MVP as well, especially when you add in the fact that Red's starting pitching staff has been solid, and for the most part, he's been the guy behind the plate.
All right, JD, we talked about the position players, and last time you alluded to Johnny Cueto, too. Between Cueto and those position players, is Johnny Cueto the MVP of this season for the Reds?
Well, if you like to put pitchers in that category, I don't think there's been anyone better than Johnny Cueto. The guy that's going for 20 victories has been the backbone of that starting staff. And every 5 days, he gives them a shot in the arm in a season where they've had very little of that.
How about you, Chris?
George, this is probably going to sound cynical, but when you're 14 games out of first place, how can you have an MVP? Now, you can say the guys that have been impressive for me, Mesoraco, no doubt.
I mean, Ernie Banks wasn't an MVP for the Cubs when they were.
You know what they could say to any of these guys? Hey, we can finish 14 games with you or 14 games without you.
That's what Branch Rickey told Ralph Kiner, right, when he cut his salary.
Yeah.
Mesoraco strikes out.
I mean, there should be a lot of unfinished business in the minds of these players in there, because this was a team. This wasn't a team that everybody expected to be 14 games out at the end of the year. This was a team that expected to be playing in the biggest series of the year this weekend in St. Louis. And unfortunately, it has not turned out the way it is. Now, you can say it's injuries and everything else, and that had a large part to do with the failure of this ball club. But they've got issues. And I think that it starts with players individually answering to themselves.
Agreed. Fouled off by Brandon Phillips, 0 for 2. Hey, after every Reds game, don't forget Fox Sports Ohio will break down the game, bring you the first interviews with Reds manager Brian Price and the players. Reds Live brought to you by Performance Kings Honda. And again, congratulations on this. The last weekend of our pre and post game from the studio, because everybody will be at the ballpark for the homestand next week. And what a great job from Jeff Pecoro, Brian Giesenslaw, and Dream Weaver, who was, speaking of an MVP, Dream Weaver is the MVP every year.
Well, we have kept those guys awake so many long nights from the West Coast. Get out there in that Pacific Coast time. They got to hang around the studio, get coffee on the way home.
24 hours of rain delays this year. Dream, congratulations on a great year, and of course everybody behind the scenes too. Rob Overberg, Matt Coiner, who time and time again works hard out in the field getting ENG, and of course Rufus, Ron Melanor. That's a liner back through the middle under Lackey's glove. It's a base hit for Phillips. Well, Brandon gets his first hit.
That's a great at bat by Brandon Phillips. I mean, he got down the count. Lackey kept throwing him these all little breaking balls out there, and Brandon just kept spoiling them. And it seemed like Lackey finally got frustrated and tried to sneak a fastball by him, and Phillips was right there to lace a base hit.
So on a 2-1 ball game, tying run on here in the 7th for Jay Bruce.
Hey, what Jay Bruce is due. I mean, he hit a line drive hard right at the right fielder his last time up. Had a base hit his first time up.
Base hit to left and a line drive to right for Bruce. Line right at the third baseman. Phillips alertly gets back. Another one right on the button from Bruce, but right at a guy with a glove.
You know, it's a small sample size, and it's awfully late to say this, but Bruce looks a lot better here in the last week. Came in to make the last out of the ball game the other day on a line drive to left center field. That was the Jake Arrieta game.
I think the one thing that's clear, Chris, is that next year, if the Reds are going to win, they're going to need more home run production from who's ever in the lineup in a ballpark that's built for home runs. That's foul back by Ludwig. Talk about a hard luck night. Ludwig hit 2 balls to the wall, both leaping catches by John Jay. You believe in it, Chris. First pitch strikes, and that's what's gotten Lackey to where he is here tonight.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Lackey, if nothing else, is a real competitor, and he knows what it takes to win. He's pitching in his 353rd career start, so he's been out there a lot. And you get the ball over the first pitch, and you put the hitter on the defensive. And he is 20 of 23 in that category tonight. Here's the reason why. You miss with the first pitch, batting average up over 320. You get the first pitch in there, and it's down around 200.
Even for our math challenged folks like you and me, that makes sense.
So I've heard that over and over again. I mean, those numbers will be skewed by pitching coaches, but the main point is well taken. You pitch behind in the count, you have a short night.
1 ball, 2 strikes.
Put your head in the count, they're talking about you towards the end of the ball game.
Both the media and the guys in the other dugout. Wide 2-2. In Pittsburgh, the Pirates lead the Brewers 4-2, largely on the strength of a 3-run home run from Russell Martin. They're in the 9th. Boy, has Martin come up big, huh? He waited, and not only does he hold a runner at first, he gets the strikeout at the plate. 5 strikeouts for Lackey. Cardinals still lead 2-1, top of the order duo. The first inning once again a tough one for him. Randall Grichuk A 413-foot homer makes it 1-0 with 1 out. Matt Holliday follows with a 416-foot homer to make it 2-0. Meanwhile, John Jay came up with 2 wall-crashing great catches to rob Ludwig of hits. The Reds finally did get a run on a base hit by Cozart that chased home Mesoraco, but he was called out trying to stretch it into a double. And that's where we stand right now. 2 runs, 5 hits, no errors for the Cardinals. 7 left on base, a run, 5 hits, and an error for Cincinnati. 3 left on base. Your report card on David Holmberg as he exits, Chris.
Well, you keep your team in the ball game, and you really can't ask for any more than that. I mean, I think that everybody in this stadium, and we're looking at a full house here. I think the 50th sellout of the year for the Cardinals tonight. All expected a whole lot more offense in this ball game than what they've been treated to, especially given the fact that the Cardinals went deep twice in the first inning off Holmberg, but he settled down. 6 innings of 2-run baseball. He walked 3, struck out a couple, and he will give way now to Pedro Villarreal, one of the young men we've seen before, but he was called up here in September. 26-year-old from Segoville, Texas. Came up through the Reds organization, drafted in 2008.
Top of the order again. Here's Carpenter. Carpenter led off in the first and flied out. Made the final out in the second. He led off in the 5th and walked, and he leads off here in the 7th. No balls, 2 strikes. Make it a final. Pirates beat the Brew Crew 4-2. So right now, Pittsburgh 2 games back of the Cardinals. Milwaukee 6.5 back. Their playoff hopes fading. Hit hard. Phillips got it.
Well, you got to be ready all the time, and Brandon is that kind of ready.
That's the kind of a play that really tests that thumb, because that's exactly where the ball hit, as he had to go that way to glove it right at the thumb that continues to nag at him. 1 away. Here's Grichuk. The homer in the first, robbed of a hit on a great play by Cozart in the 3rd, struck out looking in the 5th. Sky high pop up. Cozart calling. Two away. Holiday due up. Let's go down to JD.
Well, talking with manager Brian Price all season long, he's often asked about young players who have perhaps played or pitched their way into contention for that 2015 roster. And you guys have mentioned Christopher Negron. Jumbo Diaz is an obvious choice. And he never really will come out and say which guys and talking about the roster next year. But reading between the lines, the other guy is this guy on the mound right here. Pedro Villarreal has impressed a lot of people. And the Reds looking for middle relief help next year. Got a very good shot if he finishes out the month strong.
Fastball to Holiday at a pretty good giddy up 94 miles an hour, Chris.
Well, you know, Pedro had been used as a starter for the most of his minor league career. This year he made most of his appearances as a reliever. So it's a shift for Pedro, maybe to fit into the big leagues in a little bit different role.
Line drive to right. Bruce back. Got it. 1, 2, 3 for Pedro in the 7th. Reds running out of outs. They got 6 left to try to go on the board. They trailed 2-1. Cozart to lead it off. Brewers proud to partner with the Reds and the greater Cincinnati community. Don't forget, on Friday, next Friday, prior to the Reds game, they're going to donate the red Toyota Tundra in center field to the Reds Community Fund. The Tundra will be used at the new P&G Cincinnati MLB Urban Youth Academy, and it's all compliments of your Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Toyota dealers. And boy, they've really turned that into one of the special nights of the year, haven't they, Chris?
It really is. It's a great night. One of these days, one of these years, George, we're going to see somebody hit that Toyota sign. But
well, Adam Dunn's gone. Willie Mopena's gone.
It takes a mammoth blast, no doubt.
It does. The only other thing we have to worry about is while we're away, if Jesse Jackson finds a way to get up there and drive that thing off, he'll take it home.
Will not take a mammoth blast to tie this up. Just any kind of a little bit of a rally the Reds can try to put together. Deeper into the game, it seems like Lackey's got much better feel of his breaking pitch than he did early on. I don't think there are a lot of people in this ballpark that thought that we would be in the 8th inning and you would still see John Lackey on the hill.
1 ball, 2 strikes to Cozart. 2 for 2, 2 singles. That's up high. This is the John Lackey that the Cardinals hoped they were getting. They made a couple of deals, hopeful of solidifying at one point an injury-marred starting staff. Justin Masterson was the other, and it just did not work out for him. Hit pretty good to center field. Jay back, cruises to the warning track and hauls it in.
Well, they've got dual action in the Cardinal bullpen just in case. Mike Matheny not taking any chances. They got a righty-lefty combination down there.
Manageable pitch count to him in the low 80s as we're in the 8th inning.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's what do we talk about at the start of tonight's game?
Well, I mean, he's a strike thrower. I mean, in one respect, you can see why he has such a low pitch count overall, because he's thrown a lot of first pitch strikes. But the Reds have also made some outs early in the count on some bad pitches. Frazier is twice in the first 2 at bats chased some pitches off the plate, popped them both up to the third or the first baseman. Well, you got a guy like John Lackey with his kind of experience and good command of the breaking ball. He's going to make you swing at pitches just like that.
Peralta gets the out. As you continue to tweet your photos using the hashtag #OhioFanPhoto, here's tonight's fan photo of the game, brought to you by AT&T. It's the Zach attack. There's Cozart in the middle. Thanks, Brian. Good one. Another pinch hitter. I see retired. There's 2 away here in the 8th, and here's Hamilton back to the top of the order. Bounce back through the middle, and the Reds finally get their leadoff hitter on. Sitting on 56 stolen bases is Billy Hamilton.
All right, now here's where the cat and mouse game really begins, and Billy Hamilton's got to be ultra aggressive here.
Does he
With
go to
2
the
outs,
bullpen?
you've got to go first pitch, second pitch, one of those 2. The first pitch you may assume is going to be a pitch out, and it's probably not going to come from John Lackey, because here comes Mike Matheny.
Bring in the lefty
To face Pena, turn Pena around, and
Yep.
maybe even get to see a pinch hitter up here. So now not only between the pitcher and the first base runner, cat and mouse, but also now between the managers.
So John Lackey will exit to a standing ovation from the 45,074. 50th sellout of the season for the Cardinals, and Lackey's pitch great. Reds have the potential tying run on. Time for our Skyline Chili call to the bullpen. You're watching Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio.
authority of the Cincinnati Reds. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Back in St. Louis, the Reds have the potential tying run on. John Lackey's pitched brilliantly, 7 2/3, 6 hits, 1 run right now, and 5 strikeouts, and they bring in the lefty with the speedy Billy Hamilton on first base. And the Reds respond, bringing in Chris Negron to pinch hit for Brian Pena. So Negron, the right-handed swinger, middle of the infield, pinch towards second with the right hand hitting Negron up, and they'll toss over to first. So a twofold method here: get Pena out of there, and also try to keep Hamilton as close as you can to second for Freeman, Chris.
Well, Negron's got to be figuring he's going to take a pitch. You've got to let Billy have at least a chance to get to second base here. Freeman was a winning pitcher in last night's ball game. That walk-off win by the Cardinals in the 13th inning. Pitched a scoreless inning in that.
Cardinals had 6 relievers throw 7 scoreless innings in that 13-inning victory over Milwaukee. Freeman, good athlete, quick move to the plate. Billy sitting on 56 stolen bases. That's the most for the Reds since Dion had 56 back in 1997. Strike 1 to Negron. 2 away for the Reds here in the 8th. Billy heading back to first as the pitch was delivered. Of the left-handers in this bullpen, Freeman is probably the quickest to the plate, and combine that with Molina, who's thrown out 48% of the runners. Not an easy guy to steal.
Well, Freeman's given up 1 stolen base, and they've thrown 1 out. Game number 39 for this lefty.
Banged right back to second. Kozma gets it and throws him out.
Boy, that's a nice play by Kozma. Real nice play.
His momentum was carrying him to the bag, but the shortstop playing second today slams on the brakes and takes this hit away from Kozma. The Reds still trail 2-1. And Royals square off in a crucial AL Central showdown. And on Fox Sports 1, the NL Central defeating Redbirds take on the Reds. The action starts at 12:30 Eastern on Fox and continues at 7 Eastern on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Here's Sam LeCure to take over for the Reds as we go to the bottom of 8 in a 2-1 ball game. The day finished for Lackey. He goes 7 2/3, 6 hits, 1 run, strikes out 5. And for Lackey, Chris, that's the guy that they traded for.
Well, you're right. I mean, this is what they expected to see out of John Lackey. You get experience. They're hoping to get the same out of Justin Masterson. But if you hit 1 out of 2, that's not all that bad. They traded a couple of pretty good players to Boston in exchange for Lackey because they thought they needed some pitching depth, not knowing what they had in reserve with Michael Wacha. Reds will find out about him tomorrow night when he faces them, and Negron stays in the ball game.
That'll move Frazier to first base, so it's Negron, Cozart, Phillips, and Frazier across the infield.
For Sam, game number 58.
Here's Peralta, the shortstop, struck out, hit by a pitch on a 3-2 delivery, and then fly to right. Strike 1, LeCure to the stretch. Looking at the 9th, Frazier, Mesoraco, Phillips due up for Cincinnati. Tomorrow it'll be Mike Leake going against Michael Wacha. And then on Sunday it's Alfredo Simon against Lance Lynn. Off day for the Reds on Monday. And then Tuesday, Johnny Cueto due to go for Cincinnati with 18 wins. This one hit to right pretty good. Back is Bruce. Warning track. Got it. So it appears, Chris, that we may go right to the final day of the season to see if Johnny Cueto can get 20.
Well, you know, it would be interesting that depending on how things play out, the Reds will be playing the Pirates that day. Would it mean that the Pirates have to beat Johnny Cueto on the last day to get into the playoffs? Incidentally, on that game in Pittsburgh, the Pirates scored 4 runs in the 8th inning. They were down 2-0 in the 8th inning, and they got all 4 runs off a former Red, Jonathan Broxton. He pitched a third of an inning, and it ended up with the loss in that game.
Rough stretch for that Brew Crew. At this moment, they're 6.5 back of the Cardinals. And in the wild card hunt, 4 games back. Here's Adams, singled, struck out, bounced out. The changing fortunes. The Reds had closed to win a game and a half of Milwaukee at the All-Star break, and it looked like they were ready to make a move. But that 7-game losing streak right after the break really spelled the fate for the Reds. This one hit pretty good to right. Back is Bruce, looking up, warning track, reaching up, and he got it.
There are just simply no hits out there tonight, folks.
Man, great defense from both ball clubs. Bruce tracks that down. 2 away.
We have seen tremendous infield play. We've seen 2 or 3 really good outfield catches. 2 by the center fielder of the Cardinals, John Jay. This one, Jay Bruce on the run. Ball kept going and going, and Bruce in stride.
Touchdown. Great catch by Bruce, 2 away, and here comes Molina. Yachty bounced into a fielder's choice, line to center, and single to center. And then was out trying to advance to second on a ball in the dirt on a great recovery by Mesoraco behind the plate and a great pick out of the dirt by Phillips at second. Hey, don't forget, get ready for Reds action 30 minutes before the start of every game with Reds Live, presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing, on your exclusive home for Reds baseball, Fox Sports Ohio. And by the way, while we congratulate everybody back in the studio in Cincinnati. Again, we want to say thanks all year long to the great work that Josh Hall has done, our producer tonight, our director Brian Hunterman. Loved by the first baseman Frazier, and our normal crew down in the truck, Lauren White, Matt Sigafus, on the road with us, and the Reds hoping for a comeback here in the ninth. Chevy dealer today, and by Cincinnati Children's Hospital, who ranks 3rd in the country on United States News and World Report's 2014 Best Children's Hospital. The last roundup time for the Reds. Here's your scoreboard. Cardinals 2 runs, 5 hits, no errors, 7 left. If you just joined us, the 2 runs came early in the first inning. A home run by Randall Grichuk with 1 out in the first, another by Matt Holliday. Back-to-back homers, and it was 2-0. The Reds' lone run came on a run batted in from Zach Cozart in the second. Record in 1-run games. Chris, you talked a lot about the story of this season, the zenith and the nadir of these two teams in that respect.
Well, when you're 15 games under 1-run games and the other team is 7 games over, you know, it could be a little bit of luck. Could be that the Reds play a lot of 1-run games, or do they just play good enough to lose? Cardinals are having one of those years where they find themselves above 500 in those close ball games. Trevor Rosenthal is their closer, 44 out of 50. Hard throwing right-hander from right in Missouri, and he leads off Frazier with a breaking ball. How about that?
Rosenthal to Frazier. Frazier on the night popped up twice and fly to center. Frazier in his career 1 for 9 against Rosenthal, the hard thrower. I mean, nobody throws more 100-mile-an-hour fastballs than Chapman, but Rosenthal isn't far behind like that. 98, 1 and 2. Last time the Reds won a World Series, the Nasty Boys bullpen really keyed the run to the postseason and into the postseason, and it was triple-barreled heat late in the game. And the Cardinals bullpen has responded of late as well to give them time and time again, night after night, great performances. Last night a perfect example. 6 relievers, scoreless 7 innings, and that's what you want, a leadoff walk by Frazier here in the ninth.
Well, we're going to take a look at this at bat. It ends up in a bases on balls by Trevor Rosenthal, and first pitch breaking ball, and then a high heat right there. And the next pitch is the high heater, and you think right here that Rosenthal is in command, but he walks a lot of batters. He has walked 42 batters in fewer than 70 innings. So for a closer that throws as hard as Rosenthal, he still provides a lot of excitement and drama by not being able to throw the ball over the plate. And what has he done? Walked the leadoff hitter, and now down 1-0 to Mesoraco.
Mesoraco 0 for 3 against them with Frazier down at first. And Molina, as soon as he saw that delivery, said, wait a minute, and he heads out to the mound to talk to his young right-hander.
Tell you what, one guy doing the talking and the other guy doing the listening.
Make no mistake about who the leader there is. You got a Molina, Chris, and it's so much easier for your pitching coach and your manager. You take away a possible visit because he knows exactly what Matheny would tell him or what Derek Lilliquist would tell him.
And he probably trusts Yadier Molina more than he trusts those other two guys.
1 ball. That's a strike.
How about that? It looked like he relaxed his delivery on that, stayed back over the rubber a little bit, didn't overthrow, yet his fastball was faster than any of the ones he threw to Frazier.
Big deep breath for Rosenthal. 1 ball, 1 strike. Off the mask of Molina all the way into the stands. He got the worst of that.
Well, what makes Rosenthal tough is that when he begins to elevate that fastball, letter high, chin high, eye high, and you feel like you've got to get that bat going, and you chase it upstairs and you hardly ever get it.
In the dirt, and it's 2-2.
So you know what's coming here. I mean, he's thrown 2 fastballs for strikes. He just missed with a breaking ball or a changeup, whatever that was. He's coming here with the heat. And Mesoraco knows it. Change up again. Oh, they fouled it off to stay alive.
He's got a piece to hang in. Try it again. 2-2. 45,000 plus, the 50th sellout of the year for the Redbirds. Their rhythmic chant. Here's the 2-2. There's the heat at 99, and there's 1 away in the ninth.
Now, location as much as anything else right here. That high fastball. Rosenthal throws almost exclusively 4-seam fastballs. And when you do that, you put backspin on the ball. And the ball doesn't rise. It just seems like it rises. And that really has some late life right there. Very tough to get on top of.
Rosenthal trying to pick up his 45th save of the season. He's currently tied for first in the National League. Will deal to Phillips. Phillips popped up, grounded out, and singled to center. All of those at bats against Lackey. Phillips 0 for 5 against Rosenthal in their matchups. Strike 1 from the big right-hander. Luke towards center. That will be in there for a hit, and here's Frazier going all the way to third, so it's first and third for the Reds. So Phillips keeps the Reds alive, first and third, with one out here in the ninth, and that'll bring up Jay Bruce.
Looked like Brandon got an off-speed pitch and was fooled out and got in front of it a little bit right on the end of the bat.
The difference, that step that Cosmo was in tight for the possible double play. If he's back in normal depth, he probably gets to it. This is a visit from Mike Matheny, not from Derek Lilliquist. And that'll be it. So Rosenthal's night is done. He will not pick up a save on this night. Matheny trying to hammer down a victory. We'll bring in the left-hander to face Bruce. And while the pitching change takes place, we'll take time out for these messages. You're watching Reds Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio.
A specialist in Randy Choate, and Choate has been out there. He's a veteran, 56 games now. He's one of those guys that'll pitch way more games than he will innings because he is a left-handed specialist. Well, he's been really good against left-handers this year too, holding them to a 104 batting average. And if you go back to Jay Bruce's lifetime against Randy Choate, equally as impressive for Choate. 11 at bats, 1 hit. And 1 run batted in, 7 strikeouts for Jay Bruce.
So Bruce steps in there with that 1 for 11 marker at 091. The tying run down at second, the go-ahead run down at first with 1 out. So the middle of the infield double play depth for Bruce, who single, lined out, and lined out. Breaking ball wide.
All you really need out of Jay Bruce right here, you don't need a base hit, you don't need a home run. No, you keep it going here with a fly ball into the outfield. You stay back, knowing that you're going to get some kind of soft, little curvy, slurvy stuff coming up there. You resist the temptation to get out in front.
Choate to the stretch. Short lead down at first for Phillips. That's a frisbee. 1 ball, 1 strike. Choate, much traveled veteran. Every manager on their scorecard before a game looks for the matchup that they'll have, and you see 1 for 11. That's what Mike Matheny wanted in this situation with Bruce and Choate. That misses wide. 2-1.
That's a fastball right there. I think Choate throws that fastball just around 84, 85 miles an hour, but he gives you that very low arm angle. That's the show pitch. The one he wants to get you out on is probably the one coming up. That slurvy, curvy little frisbee.
Not often you see that fastball for a strike. 2-1. Bruce will ask for time. Ryan Ludwig on deck. Frazier off third, Phillips off first. That's nub foul to the right side, 2-2. Not much the Reds have been able to hang their hat on for the last month or so. A comeback win here would be one thing that they could take home. Choate peers into Molina. Frazier inching off third. Phillips off first. And we'll go full 3-2. Phillips has shown no inclination to get any kind of a extended lead at first. Early in his career, you might run him in this situation. Unlikely here.
No way.
Not here. Short lead for Phillips. Frazier off third. 3-2, one out. Cool. So the lefty brought in to get Bruce. He does. Now 1 for 12 is Jay against Choate. And with Ludwig due up, he'll go back to the bullpen and bring in a right-hander. So Choate gets his job done. He'll leave to a standing ovation while the pitching change takes place. Time out for these messages. You're watching Reds Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio. Out, and here's Ryan Ludwig. Ludwig's night, our dancing dog for the final time this year, our John Burrell hot dog play of the night. Not once but twice John Jay goes high to the wall and robs Ludwig of extra bases. Once in center, the other in left center. Those are two bolts off the bat of Ludwig and two great catches by John Jay. He'll get one more shot at it. Here's Ludwig to face the right-hander, Seth Maness. Chris.
I'm a little surprised to see Maness in this ball game. Not because he's not a good reliever, he is. But they have a right-hander down there, Pat Neshek, who has been really good against right-handed hitters. Maness more of a contact guy, ground ball machine.
Ludwig 2 for 6 against Maness in their matchups. There's strike one.
Well, not only that, but Maness pitched 2 innings in last night's extra inning game.
They emptied the bullpen last night. Maine is one of those 6 relievers that went 7 innings.
This is a guy you want to tell yourself when you go to the plate, make him bring the ball up.
Strike 1 to Ludwig. Frazier, the tying run at third. Go ahead run at first, Phillips. This one looped to center. Here comes Jay. He's got room. And another 1-run loss. John Jay robbing Ludwig twice earlier in the night. And in the end, it's the Cardinal bullpen that slams the door in the 9th inning to preserve a 2-1 Redbird win over the Reds. 2 runs, 5 hits, no errors, 7 left for the Cardinals. A run, 7 hits, 1 error, 6 left for the Reds. And once again, Cincinnati falls in a 1-run encounter on a night when David Holmberg pitched well. 6 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs. But the Reds could not muster enough offense again. The lone run the Reds would get on this night was a run batted in from Zach Cozart back in the 2nd. This bullpen of the Cardinals has been equal to the task this month, Chris.
Is this ball